In this episode, I want to share a clever way to define and control the attitudes and behaviors that you allow in the workplace. Everyone confronts their very own line of choice on a daily basis, and you should be requiring everyone to be holding an oar. Let's get into it.
Welcome to Why Business Teams Fail and How to Avoid It, a show helping small business owners build a radically engaged team that can run the business without you, so you can remove the stress from owning a business and enjoy the freedom you deserve. Now, here's your host, Rich Allen.
Today you'll learn that everyone chooses the attitudes and behaviors they're going to show up with every day. That as the business owner, you have the right and responsibility to determine which attitudes and behaviors are acceptable in your workplace, and that if anyone on your team is not going to show up being positive and helpful, you should ask them to stay home. Here's my question for you this week. What attitudes and behaviors do you allow in your business? This week, I want to talk about a concept and approach to business that has a lot to do with whether you and your business are going to be successful over the long run. Everything that you do, the attitude you bring to the workplace and the attitude you allow in the workplace has everything to do what's known as the line of choice. I was first introduced to the concept of the line of choice over 20 years ago, so this is not a new idea. But I am surprised as I work with business owners and key leaders in businesses that so many people are not familiar with the concept. Let me explain the concept and give you a few very practical examples of how this one simple concept can make such a huge impact on your business success. Each day, you, me, your team members, and those we engage with show up and live out our lives either playing above the line or below the line. Whether you're at home, at work, or on vacation, whether you're a student or a seasoned professional, whether you own a business, work for someone who owns a business, or if you work as a solopreneur, your attitude and approach to the events, circumstances, people, and situations that you encounter result in your attitude either being positive, or what's called above the line, or negative, what's called below the line. As you can imagine, at our core, we all want to be positive. And if you're like me and most everyone I know, you like hanging around with people who have a positive mindset, a positive disposition, and a positive outlook. When we show up with a positive attitude, it seems like things just naturally go well. We make progress in our work, our relationships are more enjoyable, and our dealings with other people are upbeat and encouraging. Others see us as being helpful, caring, optimistic, and someone who has their best interest in mind. I've come to realize that someone who plays above the line shows up with three specific characteristics. First of all, they take ownership for their situation, whether good or bad. They deal with the situation at hand, recognizing that if they own it, then they're in a position to do something about it. Rather than look around for someone else to point fingers at, they look first to themselves and think about what they could have done differently or how they can change to make things better. Ownership is the first and most important characteristic to embrace if you want to be above the line. The second characteristic is being accountable, meaning that if someone's going to be held to a standard or expectation, then it's going to be them. The person who's above the line recognizes that they are the one who will be measured by the outcomes or the results they get. The accountable individual never tries to hide the facts or never fudges the numbers. They understand that their personal actions and decisions have a huge impact on the results, whether good or bad, and they're willing to admit it when they've fallen short. And the third characteristic is being responsible for their current situation. They don't look to find someone else to be responsible. They're comfortable being responsible, and they know that taking responsibility comes with risks, that sometimes things don't go as well as they hope they would. Being responsible is a mature approach to life. A responsible person knows that they'll get the credit when things go well, but that requires that they think through the possible scenarios that could happen that may cause something to go wrong and plan accordingly. They don't wait for something to go wrong, then try to find a guilty party who should take the fall. They assume the responsibility for the outcome. Does that make sense to you? Playing above the line means we must take ownership, be accountable, and take responsibility. A simple set of behaviors that can transform how we see our circumstances and how we approach our difficulties. Ownership, accountability, and responsibility. The cool part is that if we use this as an acrostic, it spells the word or a paddle we can use to move ourselves, our business, and our relationships forward. No matter what kind of waters we may find ourselves in, if we have an oar with us, we can paddle and move forward. Pretty cool thought, isn't it? But if that's what it means to play above the line, what does it mean to play below the line? I'm sure you've guessed it by now, but it's not good. In fact, it's not just not good, it's downright bad. Here's a good way to think about a person that's playing the game of life below the line. Again, 3 characteristics to describe this person. First of all, they blame others anytime something doesn't go their way. Blame is the telltale sign that someone's playing below the line. It's the opposite of taking ownership. And for many people, it's very easy to do because there are examples all around us of other people placing the blame on others and as a result, getting away with having to take ownership for their actions or their lack of actions. This started way back when they were little kids. I'm sure you were playing with a friend as a little kid, and when something got broken or scratched or lost, your mom would ask the question, okay, who did it? And what was your normal reaction? To point to the person who's with us and tell her it was their fault as a way to save our own skin. Come on, you know you did it. I'm not the only one. But then, as we get older, we see the same thing happening all around us, by adults no less. All you have to do is turn on the TV or check your social media feed, and you'll find lots of people placing the blame on someone else. And the scary part is, most people who are doing the blaming are not the ones taking any ownership or doing anything positive to fix or improve the situation. Blame is insidious and much easier than taking ownership. The second characteristic is making excuses. That's right, making excuses goes hand in hand with blaming others. Rather than doing the hard work or making the effort to improve our situation, those who are living below the line simply make excuses. Have you ever had someone show up late for a meeting? What was the first thing they did when they walked in the room? Chances are they said something like, "The traffic was terrible this morning," or "The kids wouldn't get moving today," or "I had to stop and drop something off at the neighbor's before I got on the road." What are they doing? Making excuses, of course, when what was the real reason they were late? They didn't give themselves enough time to arrive on time. While they could have taken ownership and been accountable for their lateness, they found it easier to make an excuse. Ever had a salesperson who didn't hit their sales quota? How did they explain it in the sales meeting? Did they admit that they didn't make enough phone calls or didn't spend enough time prospecting as they should? Or did they suggest that the 2 prospects they expected to close this week are dragging their feet? Are they making excuses or are they being accountable? It's easy to tell once you're tuned into the difference. And the third characteristic is perhaps the most difficult one to change. It's someone who's in denial. They just don't see that the problem has anything to do with them. You may suggest that they're making excuses, yet their response is very defensive and they don't see it the same way. They deny that it's a big deal, or deny that it's their responsibility, or deny that there were other options that should have been considered. Being in denial is when someone has gone hardcore. It happens a lot in politics. People on the far right can't see the perspective of those on the far left, and people on the far left can't understand why someone on the far right would take such a position. Does this make sense to you? Playing below the line means you're placing blame on others, making excuses for what went wrong, and being in denial that it has anything to do with them. Blame, excuses, and denial. As an acrostic, it spells bed, which is where someone should stay if they're going to come to the office or show up at your place of work or engage with your customers with a below-the-line attitude. Hopefully you can see why I believe the attitude we show up with or allow our team members to show up with is so important to our business success. As business owners, we must show up every day with an or, taking ownership, being accountable, and accepting responsibility. We should never allow those on our team to show up with a below-the-line attitude. If they do, it's far better if they just stayed home. Just stay in bed. You can't blame others. You can't make excuses, and you can't be in denial. We must require those of our team members, especially those who are going to be face-to-face with our customers, to always approach their work playing above the line and never playing below the line. An easy way to get this point across is when someone does respond to a situation where they either blame someone else or make an excuse or act as if it's not their problem, you can simply ask them, are you above the line or below the line? The reality is if someone in your business is below the line, they're not being positive and they're not being helpful. And if that's how they're going to show up, it's your responsibility to turn them around, send them home, and make sure that they know that they're not welcome at your place of business unless they show up being positive and helpful. What if you and your team members agreed to never show below-the-line attitudes and behaviors, and everyone agreed to instead play above the line every hour of every day? Your business would knock the socks off of any competitor, and your customers would tell everyone about how positive and helpful your team was. Let's make this your new reality. Stop allowing below-the-line behaviors and start requiring everyone to play above the line. It not only will make your business more successful, but you'll have more fun doing it. As we wrap up today's podcast, let me leave you with these simple thoughts. Number one, every day we choose how we're going to show up to those around us. We can choose to be positive and helpful or not. Number two, as the business owner, you set the tone and expectations you have for the attitude and behaviors you allow in your business. And number three, if you want your customers to become raving fans, you'll require everyone on your team to show up with above-the-line behaviors and attitudes. If you'd like some additional support in this area or want to tap into our free resources, simply go to my website, tourtoprofit.com. You'll find everything you need there. Thanks for joining me today. Be sure to tune in next week when we're going to discuss the golden ticket for growing your business, meaningful engagements. You won't want to miss it. Now, go make it a great week, and whatever you do, ride hard.
Thank you for listening to Why Business Teams Fail and How to Avoid It. Make sure to like, subscribe, and tell your friends so you don't ever miss an episode. Now go make it a great week, and whatever you do, ride hard.